Reality isn't something that happens to you, something that happens through you. We were taught that life is a difficult journey, that you have to earn things, that your destiny is already written. We grew up believing that success is for a select few, that love arrives when it's meant to, and that abundance is a matter of luck. We were educated to react, not to create. But what if everything you believe about life is just an illusion? What if reality isn't a fixed fact, but a reflection of your mind, your vibration, of what you carry within? Forbidden metaphysics. Faith isn't religion. It's universal science. Anonymous author. There was a time when I believed that life was what I saw in front of me, that everything had a logical explanation. Things were the way they were, and all I could do was adapt. I thought that success depended on effort, that luck was a matter of chance, and that love arrived when it was supposed to. But with every blow, every loss, every sleepless night where I asked myself, why me? Life whispered a truth I didn't want to hear. It's not reality that dictates my destiny. I am the one who creates it. And then I understood. We aren't chess pieces on a cosmic board. We aren't here to accept whatever comes our way without question. We are creators, not metaphorically, but literally. Our mind, our emotions, our vibration are the raw materials with which we weave every experience we live. Life doesn't punish or reward us. It simply gives back what we hold within. But there's a problem. Nobody teaches us this. We are educated to believe that the world is something external to us, that we have to fight to get what we want, that we have to earn love, we have to work until we're exhausted to gain abundance. They teach us that there are superior forces that decide for us, that destiny is written, that there are limits that cannot be crossed. The universe is mental. Reality shattered before my eyes. It wasn't a thunderclap or an earthquake. Wrote. There were no mystical lights or celestial voices. It was just a phrase tossed into the air, like a stone thrown into a quiet lake. Nothing is real. Everything is mind. I stood in silence, feeling those words spread inside me like a crack opening in an ancient wall. What did it really mean? Had my whole life been a reflection of what I thought? If that were true, then all the suffering, all the victories, the failures, the loves, and the losses, had I created them? The answer came without anesthesia. Yes, but don't believe me. See it for yourself. How many times have you woken up with the feeling that everything would go wrong? Not like a self-imposed prophecy. Every little thing confirmed your suspicion. And how many times have you been so sure that something would go your way that without knowing how everything aligned perfectly? It's not magic or coincidence. It's the principle that governs existence. The universe is mental. What you think becomes what you live. For years, I was a prisoner of my own thoughts. I convinced myself that life was hard, that you had to fight to get what you wanted, that success was for others, for those who were born with luck or privilege. And so it was. Life treated me with the harshness I expected. Every opportunity slipped away like sand between my fingers, and every time I tried something new, failed, reinforcing the belief that I wasn't enough. Until one day, I stopped and asked myself, what if everything I believe about life is just a program I've been running without realizing it? Human mind is a magnet. Every thought is a signal sent into the universe, a command that is executed without questioning whether it's good or bad for us. It doesn't matter if you say to yourself, I don't want to be alone, or I want love. The vibration is the same. Loneliness. It doesn't matter if you say, I don't want debt, or I want abundance. In both cases, your mind focuses on lack, and what you focus on expands. The universe doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your frequency. It's like a radio. If you tune into the station of fear, you'll only hear reasons to be afraid. If you tune into the station of scarcity, you'll see a lack of money everywhere. But if, even for an instant, you dare to change the dial and vibrate with the certainty that you already have what you're looking for, things begin to move. I remember a day when I understood it all at once. I had no money, the bills kept coming, and anxiety gnawed at me like invisible poison. I walked aimlessly, dragging my feet through the city, feeling the weight of every debt on my shoulders. But in the midst of it all, I saw something that stopped. Me, a child playing with an empty box, laughing as if he had the best toy in the world. In that instant, I understood. Abundance isn't in what you have, but in how you perceive it. If that child could find wealth in a cardboard box, what was stopping me from finding it in my own life? The problem wasn't the money. It was my belief that I didn't have it. From that day on, I decided that no matter what happened outside, inside, I would live as someone who already had everything they needed. I stopped saying, "I can't," and started saying, "It's already done." I stopped thinking about debts and began to visualize payments made. I stopped seeing lack and started to be grateful for what I did have. It didn't take long for everything to begin to change. Opportunities I had previously ignored started to appear. People I had never spoken to offered me help without my asking. The money that had once seemed elusive began to arrive in unexpected ways. What had been a struggle for years became a flow, not because the world had changed, but because I had. Now, tell me, what world do you live in? One where everything is a constant struggle, or one where things flow? One where everything costs effort, or one where opportunities present themselves with ease? Before you answer, look closely at your life, not what you want it to be, but what it really is. Because the life you have today isn't an accident. It's the exact reflection of your mental state. If everything you see outside of you is a reflection of what's happening inside, what image have you been projecting? How many times have you repeated to yourself that you're not enough, that you can't, that things are difficult? Every thought like that has been a direct command to the universe. Don't you think it's time to give a different command? I'll tell you a truth that might hurt but can also set you free. No one but you is to blame for what you've experienced so far, and that's the best thing that can happen to you, because it means that you also have the power to change everything. Don't wait for reality to change to start thinking differently. Think differently, and reality will have no choice but to change. If you keep seeing the world with the same old eyes, you'll receive the same old things. But if you dare to change the way you perceive things, you will open the door to a universe that was always there, waiting for you to awaken. God doesn't punish or reward. It's you playing against yourself. When I was a child, they told me that if I did something bad, God would punish me. If I lied, if I disobeyed, if I took something that wasn't mine, if I raised my voice, if I thought forbidden thoughts, God would see me and put an invisible mark on me, waiting for the exact moment to give me what I deserved. I grew up with fear. Fear of doing something I shouldn't. Fear of making a mistake. Fear that a supreme being was watching my every step, ready to write it down in an eternal book. But nobody told me that God doesn't punish. Nobody explained to me that life doesn't function like a judge who hands down sentences, but like a mirror that reflects exactly what we project. One day, after many defeats, many tears, and many nights, staring at the ceiling and asking why me, I understood something that changed me forever. There are no punishments or rewards, only consequences. If you jump from a building, it's not that gravity hates you and decides to punish you. The law is simply fulfilled. If you put your hand in the fire, it's not that the fire has something against you. It's just what it does. If you live in fear, if you talk about scarcity, if you treat yourself like someone worthless, what do you think you'll receive? Not because someone up there has decided you deserve it, because life can only return what you yourself have sown. But we like to believe in rewards and punishments because they remove responsibility from us. If things are going badly for me, then it must be divine punishment. If someone is successful, it's surely because they were rewarded. It's easier to blame an external God than to accept that every choice, every thought, and every belief has been a brick in the house we've built. I remember the story of a woman I met years ago. She had lost everything: her house, her family, her stability. Through tears, she told me, "God is punishing me." I asked her why she believed that. "'Cause I've never been a good person," she replied. But when I delved a little more into her story, I saw what was really happening. It wasn't God who was punishing her. It was years of self-destructive thoughts, of feeling unworthy of love, of carrying guilt that didn't belong to her, of always expecting the worst from life. And like a perfect echo, life gave her back exactly what she expected from it. Tell me, How many times have you believed that God is testing you? How many times have you thought that the universe puts obstacles in your way to see if you are strong enough? I'll tell you a truth that might hurt. God isn't testing you. You are the one who tests yourself all the time. You are the one who repeats the same mistakes, expecting a different result. You are the one who sabotages yourself, who sets limits, who carries invisible chains, and then wonders why you can't move forward. But here's the difficult part. If God doesn't punish you, He doesn't reward you either. Can you accept that? Is no one up there writing down every good deed you do to compensate you later with happiness and abundance? There is no point system. There are no divine rewards. The only reward is to become someone who vibrates at such a high frequency that life has no choice but to reflect the same to you. The universe doesn't respond to morals, it responds to energy. An unethical millionaire will continue to attract wealth if his mind is programmed for abundance. A poor person with a heart of gold will remain in scarcity if inside he believes that money is scarce and difficult to get. It's not about being good or bad, but about understanding that everything you believe, everything you feel, and everything you expect becomes your reality. I saw it in my own life. There was a time when I thought that if I did everything right, if I helped others, if I was a good person, life would reward me with happiness and success. I dedicated myself to giving, to making an effort, to doing everything I believed was correct. Yet deep down I felt empty, insufficient, unworthy. And what I got was more emptiness, more sacrifice, more frustration. Until I understood that it's not what you do, it's where you do it from. If you give from a place of lack, you'll remain in lack. If you work from a place of effort and struggle, you'll remain in struggle. If you expect the world to reward you, you'll keep waiting. But if you become the person who already has what they desire, if you speak, think, and act like someone who is already abundant, happy, complete, no force in the universe can deny it to you. No one is writing your destiny but you. There is no invisible hand moving the pieces of your life without your permission. You are the architect, the creator, the absolute person responsible for what you experience. If you understand this, you will no longer ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Instead, you will ask, what am I thinking, feeling, and believing for this to happen? And when you ask yourself that question honestly, you will see the power that has always been in your hands. Money doesn't know who you are. It only responds to your energy. I spent years believing that money had a kind of consciousness that decided whom to bless and whom to turn its back on. I thought that there were people who were simply born with a star on their forehead, while others seemed condemned to struggle eternally for a few bills. I believed that money came to those who worked the hardest, to those who made sacrifices, to those who deserved it. But one day, sitting in a cheap cafe with empty pockets and a cold coffee in front of me, I understood everything. Money doesn't know who you are. It doesn't care if you're good or bad. It doesn't measure your effort or your suffering. It only responds to your energy. If money had morals, the elderly who spent their lives working wouldn't be counting coins to survive. If money rewarded effort, the laborers who sweat from sunrise to sunset would be millionaires. If money had a conscience, we wouldn't see unscrupulous people accumulating fortunes while others struggle every day to pay the rent. But it's not like that, because money doesn't come to those who deserve it, but to those who attract it. Don't believe me? Look at it in your own life. How many times have you asked yourself why money seems to slip through your hands? Why? No matter how hard you work, there's always a new debt, an unexpected expense, a reason to feel that it's never enough. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern, a reflection of what you believe about abundance, what you feel when you think about money. I understood it the day I saw a man begging on the street. I don't know why, but I stopped to talk to him. He had a weary look, trembling hands, and a dirty cap on the ground with a few coins. He told me his story, full of blows and bad decisions. But what impacted me most was what he said at the end. Money never stays with me. It's as if it knows I don't belong to it. Out there was the most brutal truth. It wasn't the world against him. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't that the system was designed to keep him in poverty. It was him against himself. Saw himself as someone without money. He spoke like someone without money. He breathed scarcity in every word. His energy could only attract more of. The same. How many times have you felt the same way? How many times have you said, I don't have enough. It's difficult. Money is a problem. Every one of those phrases is a command, a decree, a confirmation that abundance is not for you. And if you keep repeating it, you keep living it. Money doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your internal state. You can say 1,000 times that you want to be rich, but if deep down you feel that wealth is for others, that earning money is complicated, that being abundant is a matter of luck, then you will never see it in your life, because it's not. What you ask for, it's what you vibrate. For years, I was a slave to that mindset. I saw money as an enemy, something difficult to get, something that came and went without warning. And so it was. I got just enough to survive, and when things seemed to be getting better, something always happened that left me back at zero. Till one day, tired of the same old thing, I decided to change my relationship with money. Started talking about it differently. I stopped saying, I can't, and started saying, money flows to me easily. I stopped thinking about bills and started imagining myself with more than I needed. I stopped treating money as a problem and started seeing it as an energy that I could mold to my advantage. And although at first it seemed like a lie, something inside me began to change. It didn't take long for everything around me to start reflecting that new energy. I was offered opportunities without looking for them. I was paid for things I used to do for free. I've started receiving money in ways I never would have imagined, not because the universe decided to reward me, but because I had changed the frequency at which I lived. It's not about waiting for money to fall from the sky. It's about understanding that life can only give you what you believe is possible. If deep inside you, you still see abundance as something distant, if you continue to vibrate in scarcity, no matter how much you try, something will always keep you in the same place. And the question is, are you ready to stop fighting with money? To see it as an ally and not as an enemy? To let go of the beliefs you've carried for years and open yourself to the possibility that wealth is also for you? Because money doesn't distinguish between rich and poor, between good and bad, between those who deserve it and those who don't. It just flows to those who are aligned with it. Stop asking and start ordering. I spent half my life asking for love, asking for opportunities, asking for luck to finally remember me. Sometimes I did it in silence, hoping the universe would hear my thoughts. Other times I did it out loud, as if every plea could bend the will of existence. And when nothing changed, when the answers didn't come, I sank into resentment, into that bitter feeling that life was unfair, that God gave everything to others and left me with the crumbs. But one day, in the middle of one of those sleepless nights, when you wonder why things aren't going the way they should, I understood. There isn't a supreme being deciding whom to give to and whom to deny. There isn't a committee of angels reviewing applications and marking some with a yes and others with a no. It's not that the universe doesn't listen, it's that it doesn't respond to pleas. Because the one who pleads declares themselves small. I saw it clearly when I remembered a day from my childhood. I was in a store with my mother and saw a toy I wanted with all my heart. My eyes shone, my heart beat fast. But instead of saying with certainty, I want that one, instead of asking for it with confidence, I looked down and mumbled, I don't have enough money, right, Mom? And she said no. Not because my mother didn't want to give it to me, but because my energy was that of someone who didn't believe they deserved it. There was the key to everything. Asking from a place of lack is confirming that you don't have it. Pleading from desperation is ensuring that it won't arrive. And so we spend our lives asking with our voice, but denying it with our energy. I want love, but deep down I feel unworthy of receiving it. I want money, but every time I have it, I spend it with guilt. I want success, but inside I still see failure as my identity. And the universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibrations. There's no difference between asking and begging, and what you beg for never comes. Have you ever seen a king pleading? An emperor imploring for what already belongs to him? No, because the one who knows who they are commands. There was the difference. It's not the same to say, please, may everything turn out well for me, as to declare, everything turns out well for me. It's not the same to say, I hope I have money this month, as to affirm my finances are abundant. It's not the same to ask for love, as to decide that you already are love. Orders are not questioned, they are fulfilled. I remember the first time I really put it into practice, at a project that depended on a single answer. They said yes, my life would change. If they said no, I would have to start over from scratch. Before I would have spent the night wide awake, begging for things to go my way, fearing that I wasn't enough. But this time, something in me refused to play the same role. I didn't beg. I didn't implore. I looked in the mirror and said, with the certainty of someone who already has it, it's done. There is no other option. It wasn't long before the phone rang with the confirmation. It's not because there was magic, not because someone up there decided to reward me, but because I had changed my position on the board of life. Life treats you the way you treat yourself. If you act like someone who is waiting, life will make you wait. If you act like someone who is in need, life will come to you in need. But if you stand in the world with the certainty that it's already yours, everything moves in your favor. Not because you're special, but because that's how the law works. Look around you. How many things are you still asking for instead of ordering? How many times a day do you use phrases like, I hope so, God willing, if I'm lucky? You don't realize it, but every time you do, you're giving away your power. You're telling the universe that you don't decide, that you don't create, that you're waiting for something external to do it for you. And as long as you keep waiting, you'll continue to go without receiving. The world is a reflection. If you feel powerful, it responds with power. If you feel small, it responds with limitations. Yes, I know it sounds difficult when you've spent your whole life believing that you have to make an effort, struggle, and pay a price to get what you want. But tell me, what has that effort given you so far? What have your pleas changed? Karma is your own shadow, not a divine punishment. All my life, I heard the same story. Karma punishes you. Karma gives you back what you did. Ma is a silent judge that sooner or later settles the score. I grew up believing it was a cosmic force that took note of every action, waiting for the exact moment to give me what was coming to me. If I did something bad, I would pay the price. If I did something good, I would one day receive my reward. And so I lived with fear of making a mistake, with the naive hope that if I accumulated enough merits, life would give me what I desired. But karma doesn't work that way. No. It's not a list of pending debts or a divine punishment. It's not a point system where good compensates for bad. It's not an invisible hand that one day decides to bring you to your knees just because you did something you shouldn't have. Karma is not an executioner. It's a reflection. I understood it the day I came face to face with my own shadow, the literal shadow that's cast on the ground when the sun is behind you. But that other one, the one we carry inside, the one we avoid seeing, the one we project onto others, without realizing it, saw it in an argument with someone close to me. I found myself accusing him of things that when I said them out loud, felt like an echo. You always play the victim. You never accept responsibility for what you do. You hide behind excuses instead of changing. Every word that came out of my mouth felt like a blow to my chest, not for him, but for me, because what I said about him was what I didn't want to see in myself. Karma wasn't life punishing me. It was my own reflection showing me what I needed to heal. Since then, I began to see karma everywhere, not as cosmic revenge, but as a perfect law of cause and effect. If I sowed thoughts of lack, my life was filled with scarcity. If I cultivated resentment, everything around me seemed to push me to feel like a victim. If I spoke ill of others, I ended up surrounded by people who did the same. Why? Not because someone up there was taking notes and giving me back the coin, but because life can only reflect what we carry inside. It's no coincidence that someone who fears being betrayed ends up being betrayed. It's not a coincidence that someone who believes love hurts always finds relationships that hurt them. It's not magic that someone who sees the world as a hostile place receives hostility at every step. And life doesn't give you what you deserve, it gives you what you are. This is hard to accept because it means you can't blame anyone else. You can't say the universe is unfair, that you can't complain that life treats you badly without realizing that you are the one who planted those seeds without knowing it. And it hurts even more when you look back and see all the times you were your own worst enemy, all the times you made decisions from a place of fear, all the times you talked about problems without realizing you were reinforcing them. But it's also liberating, because if karma isn't a punishment, then there is no condemnation. If karma is only a reflection, means you can change it the moment you decide to change your own energy. You don't have to wait entire lifetimes to pay what you think you owe. You don't have to keep stumbling over the same stone again and again. You just have to do what almost no one dares to do. Look your shadow in the face. The next time life gives you something you don't like, ask yourself, what part of me has been vibrating with this? In what corner of my mind does this reality make sense? What beliefs have I been feeding to make this appear? And above all, instead of cursing your karma, thank it, because that repeating pattern didn't come to you by chance. It's there to teach you, to show you what you need to see, to give you the opportunity to change the story. The law of mentalism. You are the sole creator of your life. I had always believed that life was a series of coincidences, that destiny had its own plans, and that I could only adapt to whatever came my way. They told me that God had a purpose for me, that everything happened for a reason, and that I should trust that sooner or later the pieces would fit together, and I waited. I waited for years for luck to knock on my door, for circumstances to change, for something, anything, to show me the right path. But the only thing I found in that waiting was more waiting, more identical days, more broken promises, more excuses to justify why my life wasn't what I wanted. Until one day reality hit me in the face with a brutality that was impossible to ignore. It was a simple, insignificant conversation. An older man with a face weathered by time looked me directly in the eyes and said, "Life doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you believe, and what you believe, you create." I didn't understand it immediately, but that phrase stayed with me, like a seed planted in my subconscious. I began to observe my own life with new eyes. So for the first time, I was realizing that everything I had and everything I didn't have was the result of something deeper than my actions. It was my mind. Every thought I had fed, every belief I had held, every story I had told myself over and over again had shaped my reality. The law of mentalism was not an abstract concept. It was an unbreakable truth. Everything that exists in my life was born first in my mind. Look at your own story. How many times have you told yourself that something is impossible, and it has effectively never happened? How many times have you been afraid of losing something, and you lost it? How many times have you believed that life is difficult, and as if by magic, everything became more complicated? It's not magic, it's the law. What you think expands, what you believe materializes. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, if it's something you desire or something you fear. The universe doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It only responds to what you hold in your mind with the greatest intensity. I understood it in the worst possible way. One day, after a series of failures that seemed endless, I looked in the mirror and heard myself say, "The same thing always happens to me. Nothing ever goes right for me." It wasn't just a phrase, it was a decree, a mental seal that I had repeated so many times that my life had no choice but to follow it to the letter. I asked myself, what if I stopped thinking like this? What if instead of continuing to reinforce my own disaster, I decide to create something new? At first I felt like a fraud. I tried to convince myself that everything was getting better, but my mind spit out proof to the contrary.
Oh.
It reminded me of my mistakes, my defeats, the times I tried and failed. The old version of me resisted dying, but I didn't give up. I became an observer of my own thoughts. Every time a negative idea arose, I replaced it. Every time I doubted myself, I remembered that doubt is just a choice, and that I could choose something else. And most importantly, I stopped focusing on what I didn't want and started acting as if I already had what I desired. It didn't take long for it to happen. Opportunities I hadn't seen before began to appear. People who could help me came without me looking for them. Situations that seemed immovable resolved themselves because the change hadn't happened outside. It had happened inside me. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a miracle. It was the law of mentalism in action. The world you see is only a reflection of what's happening in your mind. If you change what you believe is possible, you change what you experience. If you change your relationship with abundance, abundance arrives. If you stop seeing yourself as a victim and recognize yourself as a creator, circumstances stop controlling you. Love isn't found. It's manifested. I spent years looking for it, looking in unfamiliar faces, in empty conversations, in looks that promised but didn't deliver. I searched in the wrong places, in people who didn't know how to love themselves, in bodies that were only temporary refuges for my loneliness. I believed that love was something you found, that if I persisted long enough, sooner or later someone would appear who would fill the void. But they didn't appear. Or rather, they appeared in fragments, brief illusions that broke like glass at the first shock of reality. One day I asked myself, why? Why did love seem to be an unattainable prize? Why did others have it so easily, and I seemed condemned to see it from a distance? Was it bad luck? Was I not good enough? Attractive enough? Interesting enough? The answer came like a whisper in my own mind. Love isn't something you look for. It's something you manifest. I didn't understand it immediately. Didn't. Make sense? Everything in the world seemed to say the opposite. I was supposed to go out, meet people, try to be better, attract the right person. Love was supposed to be out there waiting to be found. But then why did it seem to be farther away every time I desperately looked for it? I saw it clearly one afternoon at my usual cafe. I was sitting across from a couple who didn't say a single word. It wasn't awkwardness. It wasn't indifference. It was something else. Something deep. Something you only feel when you don't need to fill the silence with noise. They looked at each other as if they had already said everything, as if love wasn't something they needed to confirm, but something they simply were. And there I understood. Love is not a hunt. It's not a goal. It's not something you get with effort. It's not something someone else can give you. It's a reflection of what already exists inside you. If you feel you lack love, it's not because you haven't found it. It's because you haven't manifested it in yourself. If you desperately seek for someone to love you, it's because you haven't learned to love yourself. If you feel that love is scarce, it's because there's a belief inside you that says you don't deserve it. And as long as you keep looking outside for what you haven't cultivated inside, you will only find emptiness disguised as promises. I confirmed it in my own life. Every time I tried to find love from a place of lack, I attracted broken relationships. People who, like me, were also looking for something they didn't have within. Relationships full of fears, insecurities, doubts. Relationships where love wasn't a natural state but a constant negotiation. But when I stopped looking, when I became someone who already was loved without needing anyone else to validate it, everything changed. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't like in the movies where one day you wake up and love is knocking on your door. But it was real. People around me started to treat me differently. I attracted people who reflected my new energy, who came not to fill a void, but to share what they already were. Your word is a decree. Use the verb with wisdom. Words seem simple, harmless, just sounds that escape the mouth and get lost in the air. But it's not like that. Every word is a decree, a command that sends a direct order to the universe. Most people don't understand this and speak without thinking, without realizing that with every sentence they are building or destroying their own reality. I first saw it in others, but it took me years to see it in myself. People who said, everything goes wrong for me, and sure enough, something always did. Others who claimed that money is difficult to get and lived in an eternal cycle of scarcity. And those who talked about life as if it were a burden, as if everything was against them, without noticing that they were the ones who, with every word, were burying themselves deeper in the very destiny they feared. But the hardest part was realizing how many times I had done that to myself. There was a time when everything that came out of my mouth were complaints, that work was exhausting, that money was never enough, that relationships always ended the same way. I said it without thinking, with the lightness of someone repeating gossip, as if they were just words. But they weren't just words, they were orders. In life, obedient, returned exactly what I decreed. I didn't see it until one day, After repeating the same thing always happens to me one more time, someone looked at me intently and asked, "And what if it's because you don't stop saying it?" That question was like a sharp blow to the stomach. I went quiet, feeling those words slide into my mind like an uncomfortable truth. What if everything I said was really defining my destiny? What if every time I said something, I was sealing it into my reality? From that day on, I started listening to myself. I observed myself with the precision of someone reviewing a contract before signing. I discovered that every time I said it's difficult, my body tensed. Every time I said I can't, my head dropped. Every time I called myself bad at something, my mind automatically looked for proof to confirm it. That's when I understood. Words aren't just sounds. They are keys that open or close doors in the universe. I decided to do an experiment. I changed my language. I didn't say, "It's difficult." I said, "I'm learning." I didn't say, "I don't have." I said, "Money comes to me." I didn't say, "This always happens to me." I said, "Everything's changing in my favor." At first it felt fake. My mind resisted, mocked me, told me they were just words that changed nothing. But I kept going. And little by little, what had once seemed impossible began to move. Not because the words themselves were magic, but because by changing the verb, I changed my frequency. Look at your life. Look at how you speak. How many times a day do you say things like, "I'm a disaster. I'm never lucky. Love is complicated. I don't have enough money. I always get sick. I'm no good at this." You don't realize it, but each of those phrases is a decree, and the universe doesn't judge what you say, just fulfills it. The power of gratitude. But without falsehoods, there was a time when I repeated to myself daily that I had to be grateful. I would get up in the morning and, in an almost robotic voice, say, "Thank you for life, for health, for the roof over my head." I did it because I had read in books that gratitude was the key to attracting abundance. I did it because they said that if you were grateful enough, the universe would give you more reasons to be grateful. But deep down, something felt empty, because forced gratitude is a lie. It's just a disguise, and the universe doesn't respond to hollow words. It responds to real emotions. I understood it the day that after repeating my list of thanks as if it were a mathematical formula, I felt just as frustrated as before. "I'm grateful for my life," I said, but deep down, I felt my life wasn't where I wanted it to be. "I'm grateful for my job, but I hated every minute in that place. I'm grateful for the money I have, but every time I checked my bank account, anxiety devoured me." It wasn't gratitude, it was a lie. And lying to myself wasn't going to change anything. It was then that I decided to do something different. Instead of saying thank you out of obligation, I stopped to feel. I stopped repeating automatic phrases and started asking myself, what truly makes me feel grateful? Not what I should be grateful for, but what truly filled me. And suddenly I saw it. It wasn't my house, it was the ray of sunlight that came through the window in the morning, illuminating the dust in the air as if they were golden particles floating in an invisible universe. It wasn't the money in my account. It was the fact that somehow I always had what was necessary to keep going. It wasn't my health in general. It was that exact moment when my body felt light, when I breathed effortlessly, when I could walk without pain. Gratitude wasn't in repeating phrases, it was in feeling. And when I truly felt it, everything changed. Not because everything magically got resolved in an instant, but because my perception changed. Suddenly, every small moment had a value that I had previously ignored. By realizing that, the universe began to give me more reasons to feel it. Because that is the truth nobody tells you. Gratitude is not a strategy to receive more. It's not a bargaining chip for life to give you what you want. It's a key that opens your eyes to what you already have. Look at your own life, not from a place of complaint, not from a place of comparison, but from a place of reality. How many things do you ignore because you take them for granted? How many small miracles happen in front of you every day without you noticing? Fear is not real. It's just a collective hypnosis. When I was a child, I was afraid of the dark. Not because the darkness itself held anything, but because my mind took it upon itself to fill it with invisible monsters. Every shadow became an enemy. Every sound a warning that something was lurking. But the truth is, there was never anything there. The darkness didn't hide any danger. The danger only existed in my head, and so, without realizing it, we spend our adult lives with the same childhood fears disguised as rational worries. The fear of losing a job, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. Fears that seem so real we feel them in our skin, in our stomachs, in the shallow breaths of sleepless nights. But in the end, when we look closely, we realize that none of it is real. Most fears never materialize. It's not because we're lucky, but because fear is just a mental movie of deception that keeps us paralyzed. One day, I met a man who had always lived in fear. He worried about everything: money, his health, what others thought of him. He didn't take risks, didn't do anything outside of what was safe, didn't allow his life to deviate from the predictable path he had imposed on himself. One day after years of being trapped in that invisible prison, he received the worst news. He had a terminal illness. Suddenly, everything he had feared for years stopped mattering. He told me something I'll never forget. I spent my whole life afraid of losing things, and in the end, I lost everything anyway. I wish I had dared to live before. There I understood. Fear is a collective hypnosis. From a young age, they teach us to be afraid, not to make mistakes, not to take risks, not to stray from the path. They program us to live in a state of alert, as if the world were full of threats, as if every step were a potential disaster. And the worst part is that we believe it. But the truth is this: fear is nothing more than a thought. It has no form, no substance, no real power. It only governs those who let it stay. Look at your own life. Dad. How many things have you stopped doing out of fear? Dad. How many dreams have you postponed because you believed you weren't good enough? Or because, what will people say, weighed more than what you wanted? How many opportunities have you rejected out of terror of failing? Life is a mirror. What you see is what you are. There was a time when I believed that life was an external force that threw tests at me, that things just happened, and that I had to react to them. I thought that people came into my life by chance, that problems were blows of fate, and that everything good or bad that happened was out of my control. I didn't understand that life wasn't doing anything to me. It was only reflecting me. I understood it the day someone treated me with the same indifference with which I treated myself. I got angry. I felt like a victim. But when the rage dissipated, the truth hit me like a bucket of cold water. That person was only projecting what I already believed about myself. Life is always a mirror. No matter how much you try to deny it, it always reflects what you carry inside. If you believe the world is unfair, you will find injustices everywhere. If you think people are selfish, you will attract those who confirm it. If you feel you don't deserve love, you will surround yourself with those who deny it. Life hates you. But because it can't give you something that you yourself don't give to yourself, the first time I heard this, I refused to accept it. It seemed cruel. How could it be my fault that there were people who treated me badly? How could I be responsible for my problems? But after observing my own life, I understood that it wasn't about blame, but about responsibility. Life wasn't punishing me. It was showing me what frequency I was vibrating at. One day I spoke with someone who seemed to live in a constant state of war with the world. He complained about everything: the government, his boss, his friends, his partner. Every story he told had the same pattern. Someone hurt him, someone lied to him, someone failed him. I listened in silence, watching as he repeated the same story over and over with different names. He didn't realize that it wasn't the world that was betraying him. It was him projecting his own distrust onto everyone around him. It's hard for us to accept this because it's easier to think that life does things to us, that we are victims of circumstances. But the truth is that everything you see outside is a reflection of what you carry inside. If you always get into the same type of relationships, ask yourself what you believe about love. If money seems to slip through your hands, review your Internal relationship with abundance. If opportunities don't come, maybe there's a voice inside you that says you're not enough. Life cannot give you what you don't believe is possible. It cannot show you something different from what already exists in you. It's a mirror, not a creator. It doesn't give you what you are. It gives you what you believe you are. When I understood this, everything changed. I stopped fighting with the world and started observing myself. Every time something bothered me, instead of pointing a finger, I asked myself, what part of me is creating this? Every time someone hurt me, instead of blaming them, I asked myself, at what moment did I accept less than I deserve? Not religion. It is universal science, they told me, that faith was for believers, that it was a matter of prayers and temples, of lit candles and promises to the heavens, that faith meant trusting in a distant God, one who decided for me, who gave or took away according to his will. I grew up thinking that faith was a gift reserved for those who followed certain rules, for those who submitted to an imposed truth. And since I didn't fit into that idea, I spent a large part of my life without it until life showed me that. Faith has nothing to do with religion. Faith is not a dogma, it is a law. One day I watched a small child learning to walk. He wobbled, fell, got up, and tried again and again. He never doubted. He never thought that maybe he wasn't made to walk. He never questioned whether his body was strong enough or if the floor was against him. He just did it because in his mind, the possibility of failure didn't exist. His faith in himself was absolute. There I understood. Faith isn't believing in something just because. It's not a consolation or an illusion. It is the absolute certainty that something is real even before you see it manifested. It's what allows us to walk without thinking about every step, to speak without analyzing every word, to breathe without questioning whether the air will be there. It's the basis of all creation. Science calls it conviction. Quantum physics calls it wave function collapse. The world has disguised it in many ways, but it has always been the same. Energy follows belief. When an athlete visualizes their victory with such intensity that their body responds as if they've already won, they are applying faith. When someone who is sick decides that they will heal and their body responds, they are using faith. When someone sees opportunities where others only see problems, they are creating from a place of faith. It's not a matter of religion. Equation: the mind is a magnetic field. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you believe is possible. If you believe love is difficult, it will be. If you believe life is hard, it will be. If you believe you don't deserve more, you will never have more. Not because the world is punishing you, but because the world can only reflect what you carry inside. Look at your own life. How many times have you doubted something and seen that it effectively didn't happen? How many times have you believed in something with certainty and it happened almost miraculously? It wasn't a coincidence. It was your energy molding reality. Faith is the only condition for something to exist, but most people use it in reverse. They believe with certainty in their fears, in their limitations, in their failures. And when life gives them back what they have projected, they say it's proof that their destiny is sealed. But it wasn't destiny. It was their misguided faith. You don't need to believe in a God to have faith. You don't need candles or rituals. You just need to decide what story you are going to hold inside yourself. Because what you hold with firmness will eventually become real. Don't ask for signs. Be the sign. I spent years waiting for a sign. I looked at the sky searching for a message. I opened books at random, hoping a phrase would tell me what to do. I put on songs hoping the lyrics would hold an answer for me. I believed that life had to speak to me in code, that something outside of me had to confirm if I was on the right path. The sign never came. Or maybe it came so many times that I couldn't see it. One day after another, one of those nights where insomnia weighs more than your eyelids, I found myself in front of the mirror. I looked into my own eyes, tired of waiting for answers, tired of looking outside for what I already knew inside. And there I understood. It's not life that has to send you a sign. You are the one who has to be the sign. We live asking if we're ready, if it's the right moment, if destiny is guiding us. But tell me, does a seed ask the earth for permission to become a tree? Does the sun ask the sky if it can rise? The signs are everywhere. But the only one that truly matters is the one that comes from within that voice that tells you to move, to take a risk, to trust what you feel, the voice you've learned to ignore because the world taught you to doubt yourself. Look at your life. How many times have you been paralyzed waiting for a confirmation that never came? How many opportunities have you let pass because you were waiting for the perfect moment? I'll tell you an uncomfortable truth. The perfect moment does not exist. A sign will never appear written in the sky telling you, do it now. You'll never feel completely ready. There will never be guarantees of success. But if you keep waiting, the only thing that's certain is that you will stay in the same place. Life doesn't confirm the path for you before you take the first step. The path only reveals itself when you decide to walk. From that day on, I stopped asking for signs. I stopped asking the universe if I should or shouldn't go on. I stopped waiting for something external to give me permission to believe in myself. Destiny does not exist. Only vibration does. All my life I heard the same story. Destiny is already written. What is meant to be, will be. If something is for you, no one can take it away. They repeated it like a mantra, as if it were an unmovable truth, as if life were predestined and our only option was to wait for what was in store for us. And I believed it. I believed that opportunities came when they were supposed to, that if something didn't work out, it was because it wasn't for me. That love, money, and happiness were cards already dealt in a game where I had no control. Until life forced me to look closer. One day, sitting in a cafe, I heard two people talk about the same experience, but with opposite conclusions. One said, "The same thing always happens to me. Try, and I try, but destiny seems to be against me." The other said, "I decided my life would change, and it did." It was the same story, but with two completely different realities. There. I understood that it's not destiny that defines someone's life. It's their vibration. Destiny is an excuse. It's what we tell ourselves when we don't want to take responsibility for the fact that we ourselves are shaping every second of our existence. But the truth is simpler and more brutal. You don't live what's meant for you. You live what you vibrate. Every emotion, every thought, every belief is a frequency you emit to the universe. If you vibrate with fear, you attract reasons to be afraid. If you vibrate with scarcity, money moves away. If you vibrate with insecurity, doors close. It's not bad luck. It's not that the world is punishing you. It's just that you can only receive what is aligned with the energy you hold. I saw it in my own life. For years, I thought love was a stroke of luck, that finding someone who truly loved me depended on destiny, on being in the right place at the right time. But over and over again, the stories ended the same way, relationship after relationship. The same feeling of emptiness, the same wound, disguised with a different face. And one day after another goodbye, after repeating the same old words, "Why does this happen to me?" the answer came with the same clarity with which truth arrives. When you decide to stop lying to yourself, it was happening because I was creating it. Because even though I said I wanted love, I vibrated with fear. Because even though I was looking for stability, my mind was trapped in stories of loss. Because destiny doesn't decide, your frequency does. If destiny existed as we have imagined, free will would make no sense. But every decision we make, every thought we hold, every emotion we repeat, is opening a new path. There is no single future. There are infinite possibilities, and you, in this very instant, are choosing which one to experience. The law of attraction is real, not if you keep thinking like a poor person. The first time I heard about the law of attraction, it sounded too easy. You just have to think about what you want, and you'll attract it into your life. I imagined myself with an abundant life, with money flowing effortlessly, with opportunities appearing as if by magic. I tried it for a few days, but when I saw that nothing was changing, I got frustrated. This doesn't work, I thought. But the law of attraction doesn't fail. It's the mind that uses it incorrectly that fails. It's not enough to say, "I want to be rich." while deep down you feel that money is difficult to get. It's not enough to repeat affirmations if you complain every time you pay a bill. It's not enough to visualize wealth and then, in your day-to-day life, act like someone who always has to save every last penny. The law of attraction does not respond to your desires. It responds to your vibration. One day, I saw two people order coffee at the same cafe. One paid without looking at the price, left a tip, and left without a second thought. The other took out the bill carefully, counted the change several times, and looked at the price screen as if they were being charged with every second that passed. The difference was not in their wallets. It was in their minds, thinking like, a poor person has nothing to do with the amount of money you have, but with how you relate to it.
Oh.
If you feel guilt every time you spend, if you get uncomfortable every time someone talks about wealth, if you believe you have to suffer to earn money, you are still vibrating in scarcity, even if you recite affirmations all day. It took me time to understand. You cannot attract abundance while you continue to vibrate in scarcity. No matter how much you visualize or how much you pray, if you keep worrying about money every time you use it, if you keep saying, I don't have enough, it's too expensive. Money is a problem. You are programming your mind to reject it. The first time I proved it was when, in a moment of crisis, I decided to do something different. Instead of worrying about what I didn't have, I focused on what I already had. I changed the way I spoke. Instead of saying, I don't have enough, I said, money always comes. Instead of seeing the expense as a loss, I saw it as a flow. First, my mind resisted, but something in my energy began to change. It wasn't long before unexpected opportunities began to arrive, not because money had appeared out of nowhere, but because my vibration was no longer trapped in need. I had stopped thinking like someone who lives by counting coins and started thinking like someone who trusts in abundance. Look at your life not what you want, but what you project. How do you talk about money? How do you feel when you use it? What emotions dominate you when you think about it? The world is not solid. It's energy in motion. For years, I was taught to trust what I could see, touch, and measure. They told me that the world was something fixed, unchangeable, a set of solid objects with defined laws. The chair I sat in, the table where I rested, my arms, the skin that covered my body, everything seemed tangible, real, unbreakable. But one day I realized that everything I believed about the solidity of reality was a lie. The world is not rigid, it is energy in motion. I don't say this as a metaphor, I say it because science itself has proven it. Everything you see, everything you think is matter, is actually nothing more than energy vibrating at different frequencies. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is truly solid. And if the world is energy in motion, that means your reality is not static. It is moldable. It was difficult to accept. All my life, I had believed that things were the way they were and that I could only adapt to them. I believed that my circumstances were unmovable, that people did not change. Opportunities came or didn't come according to external factors. But when I understood that reality is just a projection of energy in different forms, I understood something that changed everything. If everything is energy, everything can be transformed. I saw it in my own life. There was a time when I felt trapped in a monotonous routine. I convinced myself that there was no way out, that my problems were too big, that the world was against me. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was that my energy was the one that was trapped at the same frequency, and as long as I continued to vibrate with hopelessness, my reality would continue to reflect the same. The change didn't happen overnight. First, I had to accept that I was not a being in this world, but a constant emitter of energy. That every thought, every emotion, every belief was shaping the matter around me. That the world was not solid, but a dance of atoms responding to my vibration. Think about this. If the world were as rigid as they have led us to believe, how would you explain the people who transform their lives out of nowhere? How do you explain spontaneous healings, changes of destiny, the miracles that seem impossible? They are not luck. They are changes in frequency. Matter is nothing more than compressed energy, and if the energy changes, the matter also does. You are more powerful than you think. But here comes the uncomfortable question. What frequency are you holding? If you believe life is hard, you will continue to vibrate in that hardness. If you believe love is scarce, you will see it reflected in every relationship. If you think money is difficult, you will continue to experience scarcity, not because the world is against you, but because the world is not solid. It is only a reflection of the vibration you emit. What you call a crisis is a disguised quantum leap. I have seen people fall to their knees in the middle of a storm, asking why life is punishing them. I have seen eyes full of fear in the face of uncertainty, souls broken by the despair of not understanding why everything is falling apart. And I get it. I've been there too. I've also looked at the sky with rage, demanding answers. Why now? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? Life doesn't punish. Life transforms. What we call a crisis is nothing more than the destruction of a reality that can no longer sustain itself. It is the necessary collapse before a quantum leap, because you cannot enter a new life carrying the old version of yourself. Something has to break so you can cross. For a long time, I believed that crises were setbacks, that when everything came crashing down, it meant I had done something wrong, that I should have avoided that pain, that I should have been more careful. But one day, after losing everything, I understood the truth. I wasn't being destroyed. I was being redirected. Look at your own story. How many times did something that seemed like the end end up leading you to something better? How many times did the loss of a job open the door to something greater? How many times did a relationship that ended force you to find a deeper love, starting with your own? How many times was what you called failure actually a liberation? Crises are not punishments. They are disguised quantum leaps. They're doors that open in the middle of chaos. Even though sometimes they look like walls, they are proof that you are ready for more, even if you can't see it in the moment. But here's the trap. Most people don't leap. They cling to the ruins, try to rebuild what no longer makes sense, fight against the current instead of letting themselves be carried toward the unknown. And that's where they get trapped, not because life stops them, but because they don't dare to let go. I remember a conversation with someone who was in the midst of a deep crisis. Everything in his life seemed to be collapsing. His job, his relationship, his stability. He looked at me with eyes full of anguish and said, "I don't know what to do. Everything is falling apart." I replied with the only truth I learned when I had to live it. Don't try to save what is already destined to leave. Ask yourself, what do I want to make of all this? Because that's what we do when we resist a crisis. We try to hold on to what is no longer ours. Cling to people who no longer fit, to jobs that drain us, to versions of ourselves that no longer make sense. And in that struggle, in that fear of losing the known, we block the leap. But if instead of resisting, we surrender, something incredible happens. Life begins to reorganize. The pieces that seemed loose begin to fit together. The pain turns into momentum, and what we once saw as an end, we understand was a portal. The universe doesn't conspire in your favor. It responds to your level of consciousness. They told me that the universe conspired in my favor. If I desired something with enough intensity, life would take care of giving it to me. They taught me to repeat phrases like, "Everything works out for my well-being. Destiny guides me. The universe is always working in my favor." But no matter how much I said them, things stayed the same. There were no divine signs, no unexpected miracles, no celestial conspiracies pushing me toward success. There was just the same old thing. The same problems, the same fears, the same frustrations. And then I understood. The universe does not conspire for or against anyone, just responds. It responds to what you believe, to what you feel, to what you hold in your mind every day. It doesn't reward the good or punish the bad, doesn't make exceptions or choose favorites. It just reflects the level of consciousness you are vibrating at. If you believe that life is a constant struggle, the universe will send you more reasons to struggle. If you believe love is difficult, it will surround you with stories that confirm it. If you believe money is scarce, every opportunity will slip through your hands. It's not because it hates you, but because that's the frequency you are holding there. Was a time when I felt stuck. I saw other people move forward, achieve things, live with ease, while I remained trapped in the same routine. And in my mind, the story was always the same. I'm unlucky. Nothing ever goes right for me. Why do others get to have it, and I don't? But one day I realized something. Life wasn't blocking me. I was blocking myself. It wasn't that the universe was denying me opportunities. It was me who was unable to see them because my mind was trapped in scarcity. It wasn't that life was punishing me. It was me who continued to operate from fear. In doubt, the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you can hold. If the opportunity you so desire appeared in front of you today, are you really ready to receive it? Is your mind prepared to handle it, or are you still trapped in the same stories that keep you small? It's not a matter of praying more, of asking the stars, of waiting for destiny to do you a favor. It's a matter of raising your consciousness, of adjusting your vibration so that the universe can reflect what you really want. The people who achieve things are not special. They are not smarter, luckier, or more blessed. They are just people who have changed their level of consciousness, who stopped seeing the world as a prison and started seeing it as a field of possibilities, who stopped acting like a victim and started thinking like a creator. Time does not exist. Everything is already done. We live believing that time is a line past, present, future, a path we move along without stopping. A countdown that pushes us to run before it's too late. They told us that time slips away, that we have to make the most of it, that we have to do things before life passes us by. And we believed it. We believe that the future is something that is built, that the past is something that haunts us, that the present is a point of transition between what was and what will be. But all of that is a lie. Time is not real. It's only a perception, an illusion that the mind uses to organize reality, but that truly does not exist outside of us. Everything is already done. Everything already exists. There's no future waiting. For you, because the future is already here. There is no past holding you back because the past continues to exist in some other time. It's difficult to understand because we have been programmed to think that life is a sequence of events, a process that must be lived step by step. But the truth is bigger. Everything you can be, everything you can have, all the possibilities of your existence are already happening on some level. I saw it clearly the day I stopped fighting with time. Before I believed that my dreams were in the future, that I had to work to get to them, that I had to wait for the right moment. Until one day I asked myself the question that changed everything. What if it's already done? What if my only task is not to create my future, but to align myself with the version of me that already lives it? If time doesn't exist, that means the version of you that has everything you desire is already vibrating somewhere in the universe. You don't have to reach for it. You just have to become it. You don't have to wait for it to arrive. You just have to align with its frequency. The people who seem to be lucky aren't lucky because time favors them, but because they live in the vibration of their best version. They are not waiting for success. They already see themselves as successful. They are not waiting for love. They already feel it within themselves. They are not waiting for wealth. They already perceive themselves as abundant. The universe, like a mirror, only gives them back what they already are. When I understood this, I stopped acting like someone who waits. I stopped looking at the clock with anxiety, thinking of the future as something distant, carrying the past like a stone on my back. Because if everything is already done, the only thing that matters is the frequency I choose to live in now. Look at your life, not in terms of time, but in terms of what version of yourself you are inhabiting. The one who struggles and waits, or the one who already knows that everything is available and simply allows it. There are only two options: to stay asleep or to wake up. All my life, I believed I was awake. I thought I understood how the world worked, that my decisions were my own, that everything that happened to me was just part of chance. I walked through life without questioning too much, accepting what I had been taught, repeating patterns that I didn't even know I had. And so the days, the months, the years passed, until one day, something inside me clicked. It wasn't a big event. It wasn't a sudden enlightenment or a miraculous revelation. It was something small, almost insignificant. Conversation, a phrase said without importance. But in that instant, I felt the ground move under my feet. What if everything I thought I knew was a lie? What if life wasn't what I had been told? What if I had spent years operating on autopilot without being truly conscious of anything? That day, I understood that there are only two paths: to stay asleep or to wake up. To stay asleep is the easy way. It's living in the same old cycle, repeating the same excuses, justifying everything, blaming destiny, others, or luck. It's waking up every morning without purpose, without questioning anything, letting life pass by as if it were a movie in which you are only a spectator. Staying trapped in the illusion that you have no power. To wake up, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It's realizing that everything that has happened to you has been a consequence of your vibration, that no one else is to blame, that there are no punishments or rewards, only reflections of what you carry inside. It's taking absolute responsibility for your reality. It's opening your eyes and seeing how everything in your life, your relationships, your money, your health, your happiness, is a mirror of what you hold within. And when you see it, you can no longer unsee it. You can no longer blame anyone. You can no longer hide behind excuses. But most people choose to stay asleep because it's easier. Because waking up means letting go of the old, leaving behind the stories that have given you an identity, releasing the fear of the unknown. And not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone wants to see the truth, because the truth forces you to change. The question is, what do you choose? Staying asleep means repeating the same old things, staying in a state of complaint, continuing to live from fear, seeing life as something that happens to you instead of something you create. Waking up means taking on your power, knowing that everything is in your hands, that the universe does not conspire against you or for you. It just responds to your level of consciousness. If you've got this far, something inside you has already woken up. Maybe you still have doubts. Maybe you are still looking for proof. Maybe there is a part of you that resists letting go of the old version of your story, and that's okay. Awakening is not a single moment. It's a process. It's not a goal. It's a path, and everyone walks it at their own pace. But there is something you already know. Even if you don't fully accept it yet, you were never a simple spectator in this. Life, you have always been the creator. Maybe before you didn't see it. Maybe you thought that reality was something that happened to you instead of something you could mold. But now, you can't get rid of this truth. Your world is a reflection of what you hold inside you. It has always been this way. So now, there are only two options. You can close this book and go on as before. Turn to the same excuses, the same patterns, the same waiting mindset. Pretend that you don't know what you now know. Or you can do the work. Look at yourself directly. Change your vibration. Take control of what you think, what you feel, what you project. Accept that if you want a different life, you have to become a different person. It won't be easy. Will be days when everything seems the same, when doubt whispers to you that this isn't working, when the old programming tries to drag you back to the comfort of unconsciousness. But that's where everything is defined. It's where you choose whether you stay asleep or continue to wake up. The universe does not conspire for you or against you. It just responds to the energy you emanate. So tell me, what frequency will you hold from now on? If this audiobook has inspired you, imagine what you can discover with many more. Don't let knowledge and spiritual growth stay here. Explore our complete playlist and immerse yourself in more transformative wisdom. Don't miss the opportunity to continue transforming your reality. Take the next step now. Thank you very much.